T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday and welcome to Trap Talk Reptile Network, the coolest reptile network in the world. This is episode 32 of All Monitor Talk. I am your host, Jim Black of Soar Magazine, and with me is my partner in crime, Mike Stefani of Mike's Monitors. Hey, dude.
Hey, what's going on, Jen? You're looking good as always. Pleasure to see you. And
Awesome.
I hope you're feeling well. Okay, so let me get this out the way. Anybody who's in this game that we're into, this reptile trade hobby, whatever you want to call it, everybody go out there and show some love for USARC. Join at any level that you can afford. And when you're at shows, you can volunteer your time, donate animals, donate product. Crafts that you do on your own, but we need the money and we need the numbers. More importantly than the money, we need the numbers on our, on our list. So when Phil Goss and Vanessa and Jeremy come at these lawmakers, they can see that it's just not a cringe few people. It's a whole community of people who love these animals, and they take you more seriously when you got numbers. So join USARC today. Also, in May, the Reptile Talks in Anaheim, California, is a really cool thing. And I've been invited to do a talk. I'm going to do a talk on the world's first captive bred Varanus togianus. There's a lot of great speakers, Ari Flagel. There's so many, I can't even list them all. Maybe Mike can, but go to the, I forget the date. It's in May, early May. So go to
May 16th through the 18th, Uncle Mike. May 16th through the 18th.
May 16th through the 18th. Go to Reptile Talks, Anaheim, California. It's going to be a great thing. I'll be there with my daughter, Sarah, and we're going to put on a little talk. And, please go and support. Much love, guys. Hi, Jen.
Hey, and our sponsor for today is Blake's Exotic Feeders. Anybody who wants high-quality quail, hit up Blake's Exotics for all your reptile quail needs. And here we go with our very own Jay Lavelle. How are you, my dear?
I'm all right, Jen, Uncle Mike. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a real honor. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, Jay. So, I'd like to cut right to it. So I got to say that, people don't realize the work that you're doing. In my opinion, it's the Lord's work. And the reason I say that is so many thousands of Savannah monitors are imported each year, hundreds of thousands over a 5-year period. And 90%, probably even more than that, 95%, even higher, don't make it to the first year. They're imported in such numbers. Their price is very, very low, which, any living animal is worth more than $15, $20, $30, $50, because at that price, it's almost like a throwaway. So what I preach all the time, and what we're going to do a lot here today, is the importance of what you're doing. So the importance of what you're doing, it kind of goes like this. You are producing captive-born Savannah monitors. Not only are you producing captive-born Savannah monitors, but in your years of doing it, you're coming up with some odd patterns and color morphs, and so that's a plus. And when people say, why would I spend that much money with Jay when I could go to a show and get one for $20? Well, number one, I'd like to grab you by your shirt and give you a good paintbrushing, because here's the problem. You knuckleheads out there who do this, and I'm not directing at anybody, but here's why I say knuckleheads. So you take that animal, you bring it home 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks, whatever the case may be. And now your mentality is, well, I'm only out 50 bucks. No, you're not out 50 bucks. That animal is out of its life. He's out of his life that could have been a 20, 30-year, 30-year animal. And because you're cheap, you say, I'm not going to take him to the vet. Then there's the few people who say, I really love my animal. I want to do good by him, and kudos to you people. However, I want you to know that we'll take a top end money. $50, you buy a wild caught imported Savannah monitor. You bring him to the vet. You walk through the door of the vet. You sit down in that chair. You're already out 200. So now we're at 250, right? So when the vet comes and calls you into the room and he puts hands on that animal, that's another 200 bucks. You're up at 450 now. Now you're going to get your meds, return visits to make sure everything's going fine. You're over $500, and Jay is producing these animals in a range from $350 to $500. You spend that $500 with Jay. There's no vet visit. There's no, you may, but initially to get this animal established, there's no vet visit. There's no all that money out of your pocket. While you do put all that money out of your pocket with the wild caught, it still may die on you. You spend the $500 with Jay, and 90% of those animals live. Plus, I know Jay, he loves his animals, and he's going to be behind them 100%. So you're going to get husbandry information from the guy who's doing it with the species. So do yourself a favor. Don't buy, because as more people keep buying them, they just keep coming in and in. So if people stop rescuing them from Petco and they think they're doing so good. However, they rescue them from a 20-gallon, screen top in Petco, and they bring it home to a 30-gallon screen top in their home. That's not a rescue. That's just a shift of mortality, if you ask me. So, Jay, with all that being said, I got my little spiel out of the way. Welcome to our podcast, All Monitor Talk. It's a pleasure to have you. And like I say, I really respect the work that you do, because not a lot of people would do that, because as everybody knows, keeping and breeding Varanus is a very, very expensive thing. And, people say, oh, yeah, you sold all your Mertens. I'm like, yeah, I had one buddy who tallied up 250 Mertens over a few years period. Well, you got like $2 million. I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? My electric bill a month is $1,100. That's not counting the food, the time I come down here, water, effort. So with all that being said, talk to us a little bit about what started you with the Savannah monitors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And I know you guys have been on another one of these, and I've done a spiel like this before, so I'll keep it real short. So, it's the first pet monitor you get, right? So like my first job as a teenager was at a mom and pop reptile shop. It wasn't even a Petco. I think it was called Happy Pets back in the day, somewhere back in Essex County, North Jersey. And I was just that kid that constantly bothered the reptile people. So I had great mentors back in the day. Don't know if they're in the hobby or not, but it was the late 80s, early 90s, and I just fell in love with Savannah monitors. They were the ones coming in every week, right? Every week, Calzoo was the importer. And that ended up being my first job, right? And so I was there. Hey, did I lose you?
Got you?
Oh, no. I had to nix a phone call, so I thought I'd click off. I'm dumb. Go ahead.
Nope, you're here. You're with us.
Anyway, so long story short, though, it's the first pet everyone gets, right? It's your first pet dinosaur. So that was great, and that was cool. Had them for quite a while. Then, over the years, what wasn't an industry or a hobby started becoming a hobby, right? King Snake Forum opened up. I had an adult pair by then that I had gotten in my late teens from the store. Nice imports that I had raised up in 2001 and 2004. They bred, and it was one of those things. We were all doing the Reptile magazine California turkey diet crushed
Oh.
up vitamin, turkey diets, eggs.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. I have
Wasn't
good
it called
Italian
mash?
skin. I have good Italian skin, but I'm going to be 47 this year. Like, I'm not 20. All right. That's why I'm talking about this like that. Like, so.
47? You're
You
gonna
know.
be 47?
47, yeah.
What the? That's
Don't
Good
make it
Italian
laugh.
genes. I don't know.
You look like you're 27.
You
Thank
do.
you. Thank you. But so you know, long story short, they bred, and then you know, our dearly departed, you know, Daniel had written me, you know, Mendick, Rob, I know who was on here, you know, everyone reached out, you know, because this was a big thing in the King Snake forums. My old chats on there are still on there. Oh, whatever, and you know, we want to do this.
Hey,
article.
I gotta say, man, that archive could be a bitch because I know a lot of the stuff I said was on there, and back then it was different. So go on.
It was
I'm
a
sorry.
different time.
Absolutely.
And we should definitely talk about that because it's definitely about sharing information, right? And not what it is today. But anyway, long story short, I got asked, I did that. And yeah, that was in itself a tragedy, right? Because that female, and you know, that's been some of the follow up on that. She was a multi clutch, and she burned out. I think a lot of people that try with Exanthematicus have experienced that, and I think part of that, you know, husbandry changes from then to now, right? Is part of that whole the turkey diet. We were feeding rodents. What was it? We used to be told you could feed Savannah. It was a Reptiles magazine article on keeping Exanthematicus.
Yeah.
Triumph premium cat food. Triumph cat food. I
Yes.
remember this
Yes,
well.
I remember
You
that
could feed your
too.
monitor Triumph
Oh.
cat food. In the article, this was recommended, if you don't remember, and this would have been 1994-ish. So like it's just everything's changed, right? So that female burned out. But because she multi-clutched and a lot, I mean, huge clutches of 33, 35 eggs, by the time it was done, and they had all hatched. I had like 150 Exanthematicus to get rid of in 2005, and this was not what it was. So that was a lot of crazy. And
That
so I
sounds like
stopped.
a lot of crazy.
Yeah, it left a bad taste in my mouth. There was, I mean, you guys could imagine what it was, what the kind of people you deal with in that situation. You know, it comes to a point where because it wasn't what it was, you know, you can't give things away, and you got mouths to feed too. So you want them to go to good homes, right?
Well,
So I got out of it.
again, with that being said, Jay, it's like I learned a lesson when I first started doing concrete. My Uncle Dingy, rest his soul, he gave me my first set of tools. Um, he bounced away. He went to a different job, and he comes back a few months later, and he looked in my bucket, and the tools were all dirty, and I didn't clean them. And he called me over there. He fucking gave me a quick paintbrushing, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What's the matter, Unc?" He says, "These tools. I give you these tools, and you don't clean them." So he literally, we're at work. He takes my tools back, and he goes, "Listen." He goes, "You go buy your own tools after work, and I guarantee you're going to keep them clean." Well, when I went to the store and found out how much the trowel was that he gave me, it was like, I mean, this was way back in the day. It was like $65. I was like, oh, no wonder he was mad. So after that, so I guess the moral of the story is if you don't buy it yourself, use your money, you're not going to take care of it. So yeah, giving stuff away is wrong. Low prices are wrong. So again, sorry for getting in there, but I guess that's what I do.
No, and back then, and I was a kid, and I had a regular job, so like you know, late 20s, and I decided to get out of everything right at that point. So, take a few jobs, move a few states. I just keep a couple snakes here or there, and then in 2018, I came across this banded female monitor in a mom or pop store here in Jersey. Random place. I ended up being able to track down the where it came in as an import was a female. Grabbed another one at a show, and I was like, hey, I'm going to try all this again, but everything's different. Let me do things differently now. And sure enough, I mean, it took. And then what was funny was because the male is a normal looking, everyday spotted brown Savannah, and then the female is that original pastel looking striped Savannah. Well, the clutch came out kind of like a mix of some that looked just like her, and then some that were spotted. And I was like, that's kind of cool. And I just started working with it, and here I am 6 years later. And as of yesterday, we'll know, I guess, in another month though, an 18-month Gen 2 holdback. It'll be. I'm working on Generation 3. It looks like it happened yesterday to an unrelated month.
Nice.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Congratulations.
Incredible.
Yeah, 3rd generation, hopefully in a month coming. So that'll be cool.
Very.
That is incredible. You know what? Like, again, like you said, Jay, like you had mentioned something to the fact, like, that's like your first monitor. I remember seeing them, like, as a kid, seeing them. And because the first monitor I ever had, like, I'm backwards. Mike knows I'm backwards because I rescued a Nile monitor. That was my first one. But
it's one or the other, right? That's what is in there.
I had Savannahs, and let me tell you, like, being on social media and you meet people who are directed in the wrong direction as far as wild caught and captive bred. And I really can't stand, they should actually ban the term farm raised.
Yeah, I don't know why they do that. They're just taking
Farm-raised
pregnant animals, letting them lay, getting rid of them.
Yeah, and it's like, oh no, it's not wild caught, it's farm raised, and I'm just like.
Now, with that being said, I gotta give a shout out here to my buddy Chris Applin.
Yeah,
They do have a farm. They do have a farm in Indo, and they are actually captive breeding them in Indo. However, you know, that should be the signal to you. They are so, you know, anybody who breeds these animals should be proud. It's not easy to do. It's very time consuming, very expensive. So for just as a little tip to everybody out there, if you ever bred on there, you could put the equal sign and just put a giant WC. Because if they truly bred these, they would say captive bred in Indo, or, you know, but when you see that word farm hatched or farm bred, it's BS, and it's code for stolen from the wild caught. So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, and then you get into these situations where these people don't know, they're misled or whatever, and they could have the good relationship with a private breeder that knows these animals, that could walk them through it, because a lot of times
will stand behind their animals.
Right. And a lot of times when especially children want to get into reptiles and monitors, it's either the bearded dragons, corn snakes, ball pythons, Savannah monitors. And the parents thinking, well, I'm not going to pay that amount of money. You know, I don't know if this kid's it's going to be a phase or whatever. So I'll just go here and I'll pick this up for $20, $15 or whatever the case may be.
Which is really sad, because for the parents who do that, if your child, like all of us, when we were young, we had a passion for this stuff. However, you know, we would take wild caught animals and give them the best care. If you're a young kid and, you know, you're just learning and your parents start you off with junk, it's not going to end well 95% of the time. So again, there it is for the wild caught. So again, Jay, big props to you for doing the Lord's work and really producing these animals that are raped in the wild. And you're doing such a great job. There's no reason to go for those poor animals out of the wild.
Yep. Leave them alone, people. You want to say hi to our people here? Speaking of people.
Yeah.
Okay. So far we have Lucid Arboreals. Hi. How are you? Garden State Pythons. Pete.
Hey, Pete.
Hey.
Yeah, we got Pierce. We have Dickie Foster with us. We have DFW Arboreals. We have Chopper Boy. And that's it so far. Yeah.
Right.
So hello, everybody. And thank you for joining us. So, all right. I'm going to say this.
Go ahead.
Savannah monitors. Now, you've done something that I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't know, or they're just starting to realize, like, wow, even Savannah monitors are captive bred. Because even as I started forwarding the message that, hey, look, Saturday we have a podcast, we have Jay with us, you know, yada, yada, yada. People were like, I didn't even know the Savannah monitors are captive bred. Like, how can people like reach out to you and find out about these things? Like, I know even I had a hard time finding you on
Finding me.
Facebook.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
there is
where are
there
you,
is a
Jay?
reason. There is a reason. We were talking about that earlier. So I mean, professional,
Yeah.
like I have a day job, right? And for professional reasons, like my reptile thing in my life are a little different. Yeah. So Jay is, for those that know me or have read the article in Bioac, it's Jarrett, right? It's Jarrett Lavelle. But everyone calls me Jay. I don't think anyone calls me Jarrett unless I'm in trouble or my son. If you guys have seen my little videos of him, Daddy Jarrett. But yeah, no, I mean, I got the Facebook page. I was working with a website and stuff, but I follow a lot of the boards. People can just kind of like look for me and reach out or ask a question. I will say it is kind of funny though, because right, a lot of those boards and even like the Bioac one, where all the Bioac articles are archived to Journal One. I am a member. We are all members. They're all archived, and then people don't even know that I'm the same person and I'm throwing this stuff up there. And like, it is just like, sometimes it's just a matter of checking things out.
You're like a mystery. You're just like a secret. You're like
And an
Savannah
enigma.
Well,
Monitor.
let me.
You have to
Let,
knock on the
I
door
want
3 times, make
to.
3
Uncle Mike's gonna break the enigma right now. I'm very active on all the Facebook pages and groups as far as monitors go, and you can find Jay on just about any of the monitor groups. So there's no excuse. There's no excuse. You could find this guy easy enough, and you can get yourself captive born Savannah monitors. Leave that wild caught stuff alone, because as long as there's people out there who, and it just shows you their hearts. They're like, well, I've seen this skinny little one in a pet store and I'm going to rescue it. You know what you just done? You just encouraged them to get another one and let it get all skinny for the next sap who comes in and feels bad for it. If you stop buying them and they died in a pet store and they were out the money, they would stop importing them and you could buy from Jay and have a quality animal. There you go.
And Jay, like a lot of people tell me, and they say it too, and then to this, like, so freaking this morning, I heard it as well as like, oh, well, you wouldn't know because you have Asian water monitors, and those are the nicest monitors. What's no, because they say that you can't tame. I don't like using that word. I like using socialize. But you can't tame a now monitor. You can't tame a Savannah monitor. So what's your experience with that, working, since you're literally on the front line of working with Savannah monitors? Like, what's a captive born animal like compared to
the wild stressed one?
Yeah, well, yeah, like that's in general, but like they're smart too. They're smart too. Like, what is these behaviors that you're seeing? Because I want to shut up all these people out there. They're saying that no, when it comes to Savannah monitors and when it comes to like the Ackies, they're really not that.
Well, there's 2 things I want to say too. So for those people out there that do buy anything, I mean, because we all have done it, right? I can't say the line started with one. It's just a lot of effort, guys. I mean, if you do have the resources, you want to keep everything sterile and go to the vet and pay all that, bless you. But like, there are other options, because remember, that's always 50-50. I can't tell you how many wild caught imported animals back in the day have died on me. Like, I literally, Mike, I reached out to you. I had a Dorianus die on me in a week that was supposedly a long-term captive that I know what I'm doing, but no reason. Came changed water in the morning, came back, no reason, no nothing. Sent pictures. My temps are fine. Things happen with that, and you got to put a lot of effort into it. So when I say it's a labor of love, and it also needs to be small enough for you to manage that, if you're going to be taking on 20 species and want to rescue everything you see, you can't. They're not going to survive. These things are tanks. But anyway, to your point, personality wise, yeah, it is night and day. It's funny how that's changed though too, right? Because back in the day, Nile monitors were the most untamable thing, and Savannahs were the puppy dog of the monitor world, and then that shifted. Now they're all kind of evil, and then, well, what do you think?
That's true.
One of the things I've seen, so like, I mean, Rowan, who's bred them before, back in the 2017, 2016 and stuff, and one thing Dean's seen, and our partners over in Europe, it is a real social network. So I will say this, like, I have avoided line breeding being raised together, I will say siblings know they're siblings because they will not mate with each other. They will be housed together, and like males won't fight that are directly related if they're raised together from that. And I'm seeing these. I've actually sent pictures, like Rob's working on his book. I've been taking specific pictures of social interaction, these moments of like what you would consider cuddling when there's a pod. And I do keep pods, right? Like I try and keep like a 1-3, 1-4 ratio. And they are very, I mean, I got to tell you, they're pretty social. Like I know all these are, it's a lot of territory they cover. When you look at it, right? And you're talking sub-Saharan tropical Africa. Remind me to go back to tropical Africa and husbandry. You're talking, I mean, almost to the Congo River. I mean, like you're talking fitting most of the United States in that band of tropical,
Yeah.
and they go from here to the replaced by albigularis to the Congo River in Africa. Get the map, people. Go to Google, look. Like it's a large stretch, it's a large amount of territory that they cover. You know, this is part of the obesity problem too, right? Like it's like people are
Yeah.
like, okay, is it okay to feed this? Is it okay to feed that? Well, they're movers. They don't sit in water all day sleeping, kind of like, and then I only need to run up a tree or I'm going to do this. Like they do have a lot of territory. You need to give them that.
And also a part of natural, their natural habitat is they go through a downtime and a time of plenty. So they have to put on people, when they have these heavy animals in the wild, what they don't understand is they have those fat reserves for a reason, because when the droughts hit and food's not available, they live off of those fat stores. And by the time the rains come again or the time of plenty comes again, they've lost the fat. In captivity, they're not getting the exercise. They're never hitting the downtime, the bad times. So it's important for us to maintain an insectivorous diet, not a high protein diet, so we don't make them obese, because it's sure, when it's time of plenty, they eat and they're good and healthy looking. However, in the wild, they burn that off. In captivity, they don't, and that's a big, huge killer of these animals. So don't overdo them.
It's not in their genetic makeup. Varanids as a whole, they're movers. Right. They're movers. They monitor their area, and they just keep going until like they find something that catches their interest or scares the hell out of them or whatever. This is their behavior.
So Jay, I have an important question for you. I've never even, that I can recall, kept a Savannah monitor, let alone thinking about breeding them. When the first time you bred them, okay, so you come into your room and you see them locked up, right? Yep. And you're doing the happy dance and the whistles and you're all happy. How did you set up nesting, for the first clutch? I mean, did you have to figure it out? Did she show you? Tell me about that first nesting experience.
It was, honestly, it was a conversation between me and Daniel back in the day. And like on Kingston, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, do I leave the male in there? So like, and that's another thing too, because I get that question a lot. Do I leave the male in? Is he going to eat the eggs? What do I do? And, I had a big cage for just two animals, right? Like it was like 6x4x4 for two Savannahs, right? And they were on the smaller end because they were long-term captives. And at that point, but yeah, no. And we said, best thing to do, let me do a box, leave him in there. Seems like it's big enough. He doesn't seem to have any interest other than that. And that's what I went with. And even with the temperature, because I mean, there's some data, right? But at the time I had a few ball python eggs. So like my incubator was like at exactly 87. I know it should be at 88. It was a little on the cooler end. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try this. And they, 155 days to the day, and they all hatched, which was kind of cool. And so that's what I kind of stay at today, but between 86.7 and 87. I give it a little range. Hatched. Yeah.
Wow.
Back then, and there were pictures in there, dude. I did not expect that. It was the coolest thing, though. I mean, I know. So that's the other thing too. Like, I'm probably not the first, because I mean, I think Dave Reptile, it's probably bred them back in the 90s, but I mean, I'm the first document. When the industry became an industry or hobby became a hobby, I'm just the first person that, hey, do you want to write this stuff down? That's all. And, but I would say I besides diet though, I mean, really, because everyone asks what's the trick? And I'm like, it is that whole, I don't want to say, do I put them through diapause? But I mean, you got to just know where they come from. It's tropical Africa, right? Like, but that's the funny thing too, right? Back in the day, African monitor equated arid dry desert. It didn't
Yes.
matter. Didn't matter. If it came in from Ghana or Togo, it was an arid dry desert reptile. That's it. Lizard carpet, calci sand. We all know it was pushed. That's all it was. These are more tropical with a dry period that allows them to starve, go through diapause, lose this weight that they do, and then all of a sudden they want to breed. Wonderful. If you're not putting them through that, then you really have to monitor their diet and their size, and you're not going to be able to keep pods. You're not going to be able to I mean, that's part of it too, right? Like if you cannot put them through that, you're just going to get a fat animal that dies in a couple of years
And suffers.
and suffers for it.
They suffer. I mean, they're smart enough to realize that this is not supposed to be. You can
Right.
see it in their faces. Like,
Well, it's also it's like a child. Well, so these animals, a lot of times you got to put yourself into the mind of that animal, and just like Jay, you have children, you can give your kids candy all day long at McDonald's. However, you know how that's going to turn out for your kids. So us knowing how the human body works and whatnot, we govern what our kids' intake is and their exercise amount. And it's the same with these animals. I mean,
Right.
they will eat and eat and eat, and they're not going to complain, but you're doing them a disservice.
Yep. And also, we got a question from Garden State Pythons, and I know we touched bases on this when you first told us about the Savannahs that you had gotten, and are there any natural color variations? And I know we were talking about that, so kind of want to.
Yeah, so let's talk about what we know about them, right? So I think back in the 90s, again, dating myself, there was one publication where a hyper melanistic Savannah monitor was seen. African, I think it was dead or whatever. That's a thing. I think also in the mid 2010, whatever, I think Kevin at Nerd does supposedly have an albino. I mean, is it a lie? I've seen it. I think there was another publication on it. He has the first albino along with one of the Niles. So we know albinism, hypermelanistic, very common traits, very rare, not bred. This thing with the colors, the pastel-y colors, the gold. So what I've seen through the years, and I'd love feedback, Mike. I know that you haven't, but if others that are on, especially because Calzoo was basically the importer that we always got things from back in my day, working at pet stores and stuff. It is funny. Back in the day, Savannah monitors were a lot like the ones I'm breeding now. Very gold, very white, very gray. These awesome spiderweb throats. And if you look at the books that Daniel and everyone have written and a lot of the color pictures, that's what they look like. Somewhere after 2010, and I don't know if it's like the import or the export trade on it or what shifted, you get these darker, more spotted, very gray, very brown variation. Now, obviously, what's going on here. And I think one of the things Daniel and I were talking about before he passed was when I found the banded was what's genetic, what's not. Well, all I know is now the striped females babies have continued throughout my generations in a very weird ratio. Right now, it's always kind of been a third. So it seems to be like an incomplete pattern gene, but I've acquired 2 other unrelated striped animals from different people that have had them that were just like, I was sitting on them, you know what, you're doing this, go nuts. But I've traced them, they're all coming in from Togo. So one of the things I'm kind of proposing is this just kind of like a regional pattern, from a specific area, and I've been to Tanzania, but I don't get down there much. So yeah, it's still to be proven. But I'll say this: you need stripes to have stripes. When I first bred them, spots to spots. A few other people, it's spots to spots. You get spots.
Spots
I don't
to
know what else that means. So
but
like, you know,
spots to now. Do you think it's a sex thing? Like if the female carries a stripe pattern, it carries over as opposed to a male, or you
n-
just don't
no, no,
know?
no, 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 because no, I do have males that have stripes. And unrelated males was one of the ones that I picked up. So the sire of the clutch, hopefully be the 3 gen, is unrelated, and he's a full striped, and he
Wow,
went to a Gen 2 banded female. So
nice.
it'll be interesting to see if it makes a more swirled pattern or whatever. Is it more like Belle's? You know, you get like that super. Is it an incomplete codominant? Because you still get spots, but you know, we'll
That
see.
is good. That's going to be really interesting, like to see.
Well,
You know,
you know,
the
as you guys know, I'm not a genetic guy. I don't.
I'm
I
not
say
great
this
at it
all the
either.
time. Right. I'm not all into the genetics. However, if I had a albino Mertens, I'm not going to put it in the freezer. I'm going to take it to the bank. But with that being said, is um, in the wild, especially from where they come from, that subtropical, arid type, you know, brown, dirty backgrounds.
yeah, the
You know,
dirty.
there are animals like, for example, Varanus bivitatis. It's a natural occurring color and pattern morph is the sulfur, and we know because there's large sulfur water monitors in the wild. We know that genetic mutation and color pattern mutation actually works in the wild. So with these Savannah monitors being in such a brown, dark, background type thing, I personally believe albino is not something that would work for them in the wild. So these stripes and these gray blues, obviously they're working in the wild. So are
Yeah.
you trying to work with these as color morph patterns? You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously it's not coral albino or none of that craziness.
Right. I mean, like I call it banded just because, like, you know, to me, like stripes are when they kind of run from the head to the tail and stuff. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, do we have anyone in our industry anymore that says what officially is genetic and not? I mean, you know, like, because anyone that's got mine, I'm making sure I keep very close track on anyone that's got any, especially the Gen 1s, and they're all doing well, because I want other people to have success, because wouldn't that be great? I mean, if that's what happens. But I mean, like I said, I would say it's still new because there's not enough of us doing it. And right now I am the
Right.
only one with a breeding line of them. I've been talking to some of our friends, over in Europe, and if I could figure out how to do some stuff, I would love to send some things, elsewhere, just to see what happens.
Yeah.
That'd
Oh,
be great.
before I forget, thank you, Brad's Bioactive Builds, who joined us and gave us a super chat. Thank you so much.
And just so you
Woo.
all know, this super chat that thank you, Brad. The super chats that you throw to us, by the time YouTube takes their piece of it, we here at All Monitor Talk, we forward that to the U.S. ARC. So thank you for super chats, and just know we're not profiting from it. We give it to where it needs to go because we got enough money, right? We don't
Hey,
need your money.
it rolls on
But
in,
hey,
right?
Jay, so
Reptiles.
talking about breeding these animals, it's easy to get off the subject. However, with this species of monitor lizard, I think it's very important. A few things. I don't know if you could maybe, Jen, you're the governor. Please maybe keep track of what I'm saying here. What I want to know, and what I want the people to know who are watching this, because it's a very common species. I want to know from Jay his thoughts on diet, um,
Oh,
nest guarding females. Any problems you see in the breeding process other than keeping them in prime condition, and that's where we'll get into diet.
Yeah.
So
So, sure. I got to tell you, I mean, breeding groups are the best because they cohabitate well, and that helps with space. And I think people take for granted. I get a lot of people that are like, has anyone hit that 4 foot I don't know why everyone wants a 4-foot Savannah monitor. I really appreciate a nice, smaller 2-foot female and maybe a 32-inch male, because you can keep 4 of them in a nice cage, and it's a nice situation, right? It's a nice
Yeah.
it's a nice thing. But it's that weather thing. I think I've had success because, again, with that whole tropical and how people are keeping them, and I see this on the boards, and I try and stay quiet. The average humidity is over 55 in the range, more northern, obviously, right?
Yeah.
I think for my line, I think for what's coming in, and I think for Togo and what's coming in on that line and going closer to the Congo, that higher humidity is important. And because I was keeping waters, I do keep, I have higher humidity Indo species, the black roughneck. I try and just keep the room at like 60 because I have an HVAC. I'm in Jersey. The standard is 45, so I have to just keep
Yeah.
the room higher. And I think that the little triggers in my seasons, because they seem to coalesce with the diapause, the drier seasons with them, has always been what triggers things. Because if you look right now, like mating seasons between September and November and like March and June, like with that, when it goes from the rainy to the drier. And those are when those little triggers here happen. And it's always kind of been, the first time was unintentional, right? But now I've used it kind of like a weapon. I kind of know, oh,
Absolutely.
okay. And it does help. And that's really important. If you're going to keep everything so hot all the time, because I see people that are like very dry, very hot. And I'm like, and that's why it looks like dried up leather and rawhide and not right.
Right.
Yeah. And what about food? Like, what do you do with the babies?
The babies. So yeah, no, a day out. So I breed my own dubia, and I do hissers, and I start with I keep small colonies for the babies as soon as they're out, because they will start eating that next day. Like they're right on top of it if you give it to them, But it's very important to keep them individual. I know people have had great success keeping them, all together in a tank, on bedding. I have lost babies because of that. So like I keep mine all, believe it or not, in like a backlit baby ball python rack, individual in shoebox on paper towel. Because I think the other thing that people, one of the impacts, so with diet, supplementation is always a thing with monitors, right? Everyone's like, I don't supplement, I feed whole prey, I don't need to, or supplement once in a while. Exanthematicus has the highest growth to calcium ratio expenditure of all the monitors. These eggs are probably the size, a little bit bigger than a leopard gecko egg, right? And these babies come out at 5 to 8 grams, so about the size of a leopard gecko. And right now, I've been actually writing this down just to check. So in the first 90 days, I've had them go from 8 to 35 grams on daily bug feeding. Now, by daily at that size, you're talking about 1 or 2 baby nymph, whatever. But I have literally in days seen them get rubber jaw and nose, even with backlit, without calcium supplementation daily, because they grow so quick. And so one of my challenges, especially because I'm in Jersey and deal with the winter and stuff, is like, when can I get you in the real sun? I'm buying, so talk about expenses. I mean, we all know what the industry's gone through with the UV bulbs and stuff right now too, that they may not be as good as they are. But I mean, I'm constantly replacing them every 3 months, especially when the babies hatch, because in that 12-week period,
that's crucial.
Crazy. So I mean, it is. That's probably the biggest thing is, one, know your humidity, give them lots of space, and then when they're babies, if you don't want missing tails, fingers, or whatever, because that's the other thing too. How many babies do you see where you're missing toes and tails? It's humidity related. They're growing faster than their skin is allowing circulation, and that's why it's a clean drop.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bite.
Yep.
It's gilding, for lack of a better term. It's gilding.
Yeah, you see that a lot in big pet stores, like the box stores. You'll see them.
Well, I think another big problem people do with Savannah monitors, because they, you right away you'd say Savannah monitors, they start thinking dry scrubland, blah blah. Yeah, if you put these animals in, what we're talking about hatchlings. If you put them in a 10-gallon tank with a screen top, I don't know if does that. I'm talking to the people out there. Does anybody really know how they make beef jerky? They put it in the machine and they heat it, and all the moisture goes right out the top. So basically, by putting your animal in a small tank with an open screen top, it's a beef jerky machine, and that's what you're doing to your animal. His toes, his tail tip, you're drying them out. So put some cellophane or something over your screen tops, and you'll be much better off.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why I do recommend sterilite boxes or racks especially for young babies.
I always when I remember when I had my Savannah monitor. Oh my God! When I was a kid, it was the place that had it in a setup for a tropical setup. There was moss, there were river pebbles, they obviously a big bowl, a soaking bowl, but a separate water bowl. And I remember being told in like my teenage years that was completely wrong because that causes fungus, that causes this. But at the same time, the Savannah looked really good.
Happy and good, right?
You could tell, you know how obviously people who have monitors know the little patchwork when they shed. He had it on his back, and then you could see the tans, the beige, the grays, and coloration. Like he looked really, really good. It was tiny. It was a tiny little thing. Obviously, most likely wild caught, at the time, and he looked really good. But again, his setup was tropical.
I think that's an extreme, right? That one
in there,
right? And that I think moss, things like that. I mean, if you're decorative, that might be a little too extreme. I mean, and eventually cause rot. But again, they are like. So what's the mix I use? Like one of the things that was in the article was like my mix, and it's actually become quite popular. I think we've all had variations, but the core and sand and a little grit in like the third ratio, because what you're looking for is drainage, but something that packs but holds humidity, because these are denning ground monitors though. So it's like you've got some that want to lay in trees, some that want to mate in water and then lay off, but these guys do burrow and stuff. So that, a low nest box or just good thick medium, super important too. And for those babies when you move them, I try, like right now they've all my last clutch holdbacks, I've got only 4, but they're in a 4x3x2 with 5 inches of bedding, and they're this big, but that's their next year of life, but they'll all be graduating from that next year.
Yeah, people got to realize the importance of a good substrate mix, and the depth of it. So the depth of it, it's just like anything else. Like for example, with saltwater fish tanks, if you've got a 20, and husbandry for fish has come a long way too. However, we all know that if you're trying to run a little reef tank and it's like a 30 or less, it's possible you do it. But when the poop hits the fan, it happens really fast. So the more volume you have, it takes more time to break down. So that deep substrate, the humidity that it provides, generally not so much on the surface, but these are burrowing animals. So while it's dry on the top, they can burrow down to a good humidity level. So deep substrate is what I always preach. So there you go.
Now I'll tell you 2 other things I feed now regularly, and these are the controversial ones, but I've had my success, right? So I do the dubia, I do the roaches. That's the base, and it's every day, and they do eat every day. It's not overfeeding, right? Like you just want to let them graze. So 1 or 2 every day, right? But you adjust. Big ones obviously get a bowl of something every day. But I do feed, organic whole chicken thigh or breast, especially to the breeding females when they're cycling, right? Like that's super important. And I do that regularly. And I do that regularly with the babies, just the lean meat and the tendons as they're growing too, because it's a high protein intake for them. But it's lean protein. And because they're getting all that activity and they're expending that energy, they don't become obese. But I've also had this great success with the Missouri crocodile chow, the mini croc chow. All of mine from the original female onward, and maybe it's like a passed down taste. They have a taste for it. I was feeding it to the waters, because they like that stuff. It's almost like a turtle food you can throw in there, right, when you're going on vacation. But it's a great, if you want to kibble for Savannah monitors, they seem to like that, and not the Insectivore brand. But there's a little tidbit for you, and mine are doing well on it. So,
Oh, wow.
Missouri Croc Chow, the minis.
Missouri Croc Chow. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah.
So,
Glad
okay, I want another thing. We're getting kind of deep here. And fortunately today I can't stick around at when this is over. I got to run. I'm going to get magic dirt with Bill. So we're going to the farm to dig up some, my magic dirt. It's great stuff. But one thing I'm curious about with the Savannah monitors, because I see with different species, I see different degrees of nest guarding. How are Savannah monitors at nest guarding? Do they dump and forget, or are they, are they keeping the male away? Tell me a little bit about what you've noticed with nest guarding females.
So they're a happy medium. So like, whereas a lace will like sit in that box like an octopus would and like chase another male away, like they'll wander off, they'll eat. If he goes near the nest, they'll run right back. Like they stay within a proximity, like they'll watch.
And how long do you notice that nest guarding behavior? Because it's really crazy. When I'm digging up eggs, any of my females, they sit there and they watch me. However, if the male happened to be there, she'd chase him away and beat the crap out of him. And that usually lasts, like for Coming Eye and Mertens, a couple weeks. How about the Savannah monitors? How long are they protective of the nest?
You know what? It is unfortunately only like a 48-hour period. Like they're almost like a goldfish. Once they're out, and I will say this though, I'm a little old school. I wash them off after laying, even though I'm putting them back in the same cage, because I'll fluff the medium and all that stuff. But they're power tank eaters, man. Like that female's hungry that next day, and as long as she's hot and washed, but for the first 2 days, she's like, all right, where's my stuff? And then give her something to eat. Yeah, on to the next, which is why I think I've been so, because now I have 2 rotating females of age, and now 3, and they seem to be pretty cyclical because they're about 3 months apart in that 6-month cycle. So far, that seems to be the way it's staggered.
Wow. Oh, thank you, Reptile. He's joined us, and he's also given us a super chat. Thank you so much, my dude.
Thank you, Steve-O. Much love to the family.
Yeah, we also have Ryan Robinson, who's joined us, and Wayne Andrew joined us as well. And
how y'all doing?
Have a question from Ryan Robinson. Do any of y'all let your monitors free range like a puppy dog? Had a buddy with a monitor that he had trained with a doggy door. From my experience, both my monitors are free roaming, but they do have their initial enclosures that you can't have them free roam all the time. I mean, Mike, fill me in on this too, but I don't think an average apartment or home has the humidity and their requirements met 24/7. As opposed to a proper enclosure, but they do get their free roam. They do.
Yeah, so my opinion on that, like Jen, I think people who do free roam, like you're above and beyond the exception, Jen. I think to let your animal free roam in your, like for me, if I let them free roam in my animal room, I have skulls, I have cages and small cages. Well, I can't have a free roaming giant lizard knock over my tarantula cage or my skull collection. And there's dangers in it. They don't know what an electrical socket is. And if they happen to half pull out a plug from the wall, it's just, in my opinion, unless you really child-proof your area that they're walking through, I think there's more dangers than it's worth. However, it can be done, and it is done.
Yep.
I do a happy meal. I like to do, I do, but in the reptile room. Like the reptile room was built for just them. So I keep, when they're out, I'll let them come out for a little bit, whatever. But that's also how I do my socialization.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about, the socializing. Like, the babies. From what I hear, again, I don't breed, But from what I hear is the moment they're out of the egg, they're ready to eat you.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Obviously, they see you as a potential threat. They're like, this thing is going to try to kill me. So they're bitey, they're flighty, and
they are.
What's the socialization with these guys?
I immediately start hand feeding. I do. I mean, when you take them out, I mean, yes, they're right out the egg. They're a little like, hissy. You get them in the box. I leave them alone for a little bit. The next morning I get that little nymph and I hold it. And it's because they do want to bite you. That's kind of great because they bite the thing that's wiggling at the end and they get it. But you do that again a couple hours later, right? Because they're going to eat more than just one, but it's that time. But again, I'm small, right? I have a very dedicated space and I'm working with maybe 20 babies at a time. So I'm capable of spending that time. And it's important though. But again, like every morning I hand feed them before I put a big bowl in now too with any babies before they even go as they get older. I always give them 1 or 2 hand fed before they go. And then I put a bowl in. So that's important.
Do you still work like with a lot with the adults as well?
Oh yeah. I mean, I give them pets and stuff all the time because they are very social. Like the oldest ones now, they're going to be 4 this year. The original one's turning 6, but this one will be the first gen female is going to be 4 in December. So it's she does know me. It's kind of funny. She's at this point just like, hey, what's going on? unless she's cycling and then she's like, all I want to do is eat, and if it's your finger, it's fine.
Going. All bets are off.
So I just want to jump in here and say it's like it's I don't know. It looks like we got 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And some of these conversations that we have, Jen, they seem like they're just going on and on. This was very fast. I almost feel bad for Jay that it's over. But we will invite you back for Jay Savannah Monitor 2.0. But in the last few minutes here, Jay, what I want is put your information out there, how people can find you. Also, if there's anything that we babbled over you on and you want to make a point to say, now's your time. Shoot.
Yeah, no. So you guys can reach out to me at JLCL reptiles at gmail.com. I have a Facebook and an Instagram. How I do all my stuff is I have an honor system. If you're interested in something, let me know what you're looking for. As Mike was saying, it's kind of like a gradient from spots to stripes. The one thing I can say is I'm not going to change the import industry, but I love sharing information. No one owns any monitors. You are welcome to work with these animals. If you'll provide them a good home and you want to breed them, I'll share knowledge with you and help, and we'll see what we can do.
Absolutely.
But respect each other and don't be trolls. And also don't talk to me like I don't know what I'm doing, because I actually do know what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
So guys, you heard it here. For those of you that are still having issues finding Jay, you can always reach out to me or Mike and we'll track them down for you. This is so crucially important. Mike and I are always constantly trying to preach captive born over wild caught or farm raised. It's so important to the industry. It's so important to the animals. It's so important that all of us as a community keep tabs with each other and spare that. I mean, we've got not only Jay, who's doing an amazing job with Savannahs, but we have Nikki, we have Rob Fox out there.
Gotta come see you guys.
Doing amazing things with these animals, and they do so much work and they put so much work, and we thank you so much. Mike as well with his Tojis. Like, this hard work and dedication is because of the love of these animals. That's about it. You love the animals so much and you want people to experience these animals the right way. So please reach out to us or, Mike to get a hold
and with that,
everybody else.
Thank you, Jen. And with that being said, I want to say, so Jay, your passion and dedication for this species is very commendable. This is a species that is really takes a heavy hit in the pet industry. Yes. So, and I know it can't be easy for you competing with that. However, It's not about money with you. It's about the love of these animals. You're doing well. Keep up the good work. You may not think that you're making an impact. However, in time, you're gonna make an impact with this, because more people hear this podcast and us talking and you talking, and you realize, initially you're going to spend a low amount on a wild caught animal. However, if you truly love that animal and you care for it, you bring it to a vet, you're going to spend a lot of money and you still may lose the animal. So my spiel right here is, don't buy wild caught crap. There's enough stuff being captive bred. You buy that animal, there's no parasites, there's no dehydration issues. You get the backing of world-class quality reptile breeders who will help you the life of the animal, and then some if you're a nice person and everything. So man, Jay, thank you so much for coming on here and doing this. We will have you back for a 2.0. Keep up your good work. And Jen, take us out.
All right. Thank you so much, Jay. And thank you, everyone who's joined us. In 2 weeks, we'll be back. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Love your reptiles. And thank you again. This is Jen signing out on Trap Talk Reptile Network, the freaking coolest network in the world. Press like.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jen.
See you guys later. Bye-bye.